Hello, hello.
Oh, can you hear me?
Hello, I sure can.
I'm so rude.
Hi,
Oh, there you
Grace.
are. Hello.
I am. How's everyone? Right, we've got 7 so far in. So as we're against the clock, I probably will just get talking and then we can ask questions and things. Hi, Matthew.
Hello.
And we've got Alice, got Miko, Anne, Ellis, Jeremy's coming in. Okay, so thank you, first of all, for joining me tonight. This is me in my happy place. I absolutely love, hi Alice, I absolutely love doing this because it gives me the chance to talk about the thing that I love, which most about the job that I do, which is the branding side of it. But it also means that I get to work with you guys, which I love. I love working with authors, obviously. Otherwise, why would I be doing it, right? So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Helen and I am the founder, director of Literary PR. We're a book PR and marketing agency that's been around for about 13, 14 years. Before that, I worked in publishing and in media as a journalist and PR and that sort of thing. So lots of different bits of experience over the past 20 odd years. And the point of this whole session over the next 3 days is to give you an introduction to the sorts of content that we teach over on our author brand coaching course, and just to get some feedback from you, answer some questions if you've got any questions that you want to ask. And the idea is that we'll work through some exercises, and over the next we're not in the past yet, over the next 3 days, just very quick bite-sized sessions, hopefully won't take too much of your time. You're going to end up feeling by Wednesday night that you've actually achieved something, which is rather the plan. So I'm going to ask you to mute yourselves, and then if you want to ask a question, obviously you can unmute yourself. This is being recorded, so if you do not want to have your face on camera, then that's absolutely fine. And let's just see if everyone's ready to go. Yeah, I think we've probably got the majority of people that we were expecting to come in. So you'll also get these slides sent to you if you've signed up via Eventbrite. So if you haven't signed up via Eventbrite and you've come a different way, can you let me know? And then I'll make sure that you're on the email list to get that. Hi, Lisa. Okay, so the reason why you're here is because you want to understand a bit more about the job of being an author and how to build your author brand, which is one of those things, it's a buzzword that we hear about that's kind of a little bit poncy, but actually is quite important in the big scheme of careers. And author brands are unfortunately one of those things that sometimes falls to the bottom of the to-do list because you've got so many things to do. You've got the writing to do, you've got social media to do, you've got the book signing to do, you've got all this stuff to do. So I understand it's busy, but what we don't want to do is ever let the author brand drop too far down a to-do list. As I've said, this is kind of a taster precursor for the author brand coaching course that we're doing at the moment. Lisa, my head of community, is delivering week 9 session over on the other side of Zoom to 15 lovely authors who we've been working with now for 9 weeks. And every week on a Monday we get together, and it's usually me that hosts it, and we run through one of the 10 C's of the author brand framework, which I'll lead you into in a second. And then we set some tasks and we work together on them. We get feedback from the team, we get feedback from the peers in the group, and we basically learn together. There's accountability, there's team support, but you also get, as alongside the weekly sessions, you get this one-to-one opportunity, so you can delve into more detail with things like community with Lisa. You can go to social media with Rachel, media with Di. There's loads of stuff you can get. So it's a really good way of building your author brand, but also getting direction and accountability, which is super important because, as we said, there's so many things that get in the way of this stuff. So let's just jump straight to the 10 C's of our author brand framework. So these are the 10 C's that we've created this list ourselves and this content ourselves based on working with over 700 authors over the past, like I say, 15 odd years. And we've basically tracked, we've had lots and lots of meetings about and looking at different elements of what's worked and what's not, and looked at what makes the authors so successful, and what success means to different authors, and also how to build a long-term career, because what we're talking about here with author brands is more than one book, right? So it's like, if you've got one book and you're only ever going to have one book, then you need to focus all your attention on the production of and the selling of that book, the marketing of one book. It's basically, you've got one product. But if you're building an author brand, you're the author brand, and then all your books form the products underneath that brand. But you've also got other elements in that brand. For example, if you're a speaker, or if you do events in schools, or if you've got a side business that's related to the book that you're working on, the books that you're working on. So there's usually different brand strands, easy for me to say. So you're the author brand, products are like that. And one of the products will be a book, and then potentially another book, but then you can subcategory from there. So you can do audiobook, ebook, paperback, hardback, and then you've got another pillar here, which could be, for example, speaking, school visits, literary festivals, you know, so it kind of spreads out like that. So there's lots of things that authors do to make money and to build their brand and to be a business, basically. So the books are just usually one part of that puzzle. There's a lot to it. So we've got create, and these go in order as well. So we teach these in order of the 10. So each week we tap into one. So create is the first one, which kind of makes sense because you're creators. Then clarity, which is arguably one of the most important ones, because without you having clarity about who your target audience is and what your brand is, then it's very difficult to translate that to anyone else. Then it's confidence, captivate, communicate, connect, cultivate, collaborate, community, and consistency. So there's quite a few elements to it, but once the authors have worked through the 10 C's, they tend to come out the other end feeling a lot better about everything, and they understand what they're doing. So I'd like to task you with something now. So hopefully you've got access to your screen. You can maybe push me to one side on the Zoom, and I'd like you to Google your name. Now this is often quite I don't want to do this. You've got two schools of people. You've got the people that do it all the time, like daily, part of their daily routine. And then you've got the people who are like, good God, I'm not doing that. So just Google your name. And obviously, you know, obviously it's your pen name if that's what you're, you know, writing under. There's no point searching for your own name if you don't write under that name. And you really want to see what comes up on that first page. So just Google the name on its own first, then Google the name, your pen name or your author name, and your book title, the most recent one that you've published, or if you've got one so far, then that one. And just have a think about, you know, what you'd like to come up and then what actually does come up. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know what's supposed to come up, and that's what we're going to work on now. But it's a really fun thing to do, just to see where you do actually where you do show up. You might be quite surprised. There might be more than you thought, might be less than you thought. If you've got multiple books, try searching the first book you ever published and your author name as well. So the most recent and the furthest away in terms of chronology. Now, what I recommend is you make a note, or even better, take some sort of screenshots. If you're on your phone, just take a screenshot. If you're on the computer, take a screenshot, or take a photo of the computer screen with your phone, whatever, just so you know, right, line in the sand, that's where you're at now. Okay, that's you right now. And then the reason why you need to do that is because you need to understand that it takes ages to build up an author brand, but you can quickly see results. Okay, so you need to know what progress has been made so that you can actually go, oh, I've done pretty well there. You know, you need to know when you've achieved something. And I think what we often do is we chase ourselves to the next goal, the next sort of tick list, thing off the list. And then we think, oh, actually, yeah, I want to do this now. I want to do that now. And you always don't even take the time to think, I've done that. I really wanted to do that. And now I've done it. We're always chasing the next thing, you know. So it's a really good idea to look at what you've got so far. And remember, it's always a big old journey. So I give this example just because he's someone I worked with for a long time and quite a while ago, so he's not a current client, so there's no sort of embarrassment around him suddenly popping up during one of the sessions. So Theo basically is a food writer, a chef. Basically, he writes cookbooks. And I did this a while ago, so it probably has changed slightly, but when you Google his name, the things that come up are the things you'd expect to come up for an author who is in this genre. So, but these are quite similar across all genres. So regardless of whether you're a food writer or you're a self-help author or you're a children's fiction writer, whatever, you really do want to, on that first page, own a lot of that content. So the ideal scenario would be that there is some social media on that first page, and the first page goes on to here as well, because my computer just was too big, the screen was too big for me to be able to do it any other way. I just needed to be able to show you it without you going, I can't see what that is. But you can see I didn't cheat. I just literally put his name in there, and this is what came up just on the name. And then what you'll find is then, because he's written lots and lots of books, if you do the newest book, there's slightly different content, and the oldest book there's lots of content. But you want to have your author website quite, front and center of that first page, because that's the one thing that you own. I've just realized I've not even put it into the proper slideshow thing. I got so excited about coming in. So yeah, that's the one thing that you own. So you really need to kind of go for that. In terms of keeping it updated, keeping it refreshed, making sure you've got one in the first place, because a lot of authors don't have an author website. And I mean an author website, not a business website. If you've got a business that's related to your book, then that's obviously absolutely fine to have them both on the same website. But ultimately, when you've got more than one book in you, you're going to really need more than just your business website. You're going to need an author presence, an author platform. So website's super important. And yeah, there's also Instagram. So he's very, obviously food is very photo friendly. So Instagram, it's not that surprising that he's there. Videos, you might find that there's quite a few videos of you that you hadn't realized were knocking about. So if you've done a book signing, or you've done a festival, or you've been somewhere and there's been a video with you on YouTube or something, you may well have been tagged in that. You may well have your own YouTube channel. This won't just be YouTube videos, but because he's got a big YouTube following, it picks up the ones with the biggest numbers. You also want to have images, of course, and they will be high res professional photos that you've had done, regardless of how many books you've got so far. It's one of the top tips I can give you is get some decent photos done, and make sure that you're using those photos in the different places you should be. For example, social media, your website, your press pack. If anybody ever asks you for a photo, you want to have a decent one to be able to send them. And then so like I say, YouTube is obviously a big place for him, hence why he is showing there. Now, this is where we need to think then about, what do we actually want to come up? So what do you want to come up for your author name search, your author brand search? Because this is where it all starts to tie in. And a lot of the work we do over the 10 weeks will go back to some of these foundations that we're covering very quickly here. So we ask our authors to think, and I'm asking you to think about what sort of words you would like to come up if you were going to do a poll on the street of your average reader. And if you haven't published your book yet, you can just think about who you would want your average reader to be. What would you like them to say about your writing, about your author brand? How do they feel when they're reading your books? How do they feel when they've read your books? What sort of descriptors come up when they think about your writing, or meeting you at a literary festival, if that was ever to happen? What would they say? Oh, she is blah 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 blah, and her books make me feel da 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 da. So here's some examples of very basic ones. There's so many things you can think of. I don't know if anybody's brave enough, because we're all still getting to know each other, but if anyone's brave enough to put in the chat any couple of words that they're thinking of that maybe they would like to come up. But no pressure if you don't want to. I know that it is a daunting idea to share, but one of the things about the course that we do is that everyone gets to know each other over 10 weeks, and the community that we've created now between those authors is incredible. And they all support each other. They're reviewing each other's books, they're sharing each other's cover reveals on socials, they're just giving so much support. So they're all very chatty, and now, but they weren't at first, I can promise you that. So yeah, there's some examples. I'm flying through this. This isn't the pace we would usually go at on the course, but I do want to give you as much value as possible tonight. So have a look at these different logos and see if you can work out which ones you're on, or identify rather which ones you're on already. This is always a bit of fun because some of these are just who even are these, right? Like, what even are these things? So like you've got Snapchat over there, the ghosty one, which is quite a teenagery type platform. You've got obviously the Twitter X fun times over there. Threads, is anybody on Threads? Give me a wave if you're on Threads. I think I've got one wave. I can only see one wave so far. Yeah, so Threads is sort of a new, relatively new social media, arguably not so new anymore, but yeah, there's a lot there. So you've got, even WhatsApp is considered to be a social media platform these days. YouTube is considered to be a social media platform. So yeah, it's there's a huge amount of different types of social media platforms. If you ask the average author, and I don't mean that in a detrimental way, but if you ask the average author which platforms they thought they should be on, most of them would say X, Facebook, and Instagram. But I would come back to them with, well, where are your readers? And if your readers aren't on Facebook, for example, don't bother wasting your time on Facebook. If your readers aren't going to be on Instagram, don't bother wasting your time on that. It depends on the genre, depends on the age group of your target reader, depends on so many things, which is why one of the most basic kind of 101 marketing strategies that we will do and we will work on tomorrow night together is creating this avatar. So it's a target reader, basically, working out where they are in the world, how kind of old they might be, literally drilling down to giving them a name, a face, creating your target reader so you know you can keep going back to, right, does this fit with who my target reader is? Having clarity on the target reader is the most important thing you can do when you're starting to build your brand in terms of strategizing. So you want to make sure that you're on top of which social media platforms you should be on. You've got to think about the sort of content that you've been putting on your website, and it all comes back to, feeds back into who's your reader, who's that target avatar. Zooming through there. So this is another thing that I recommend that you think about doing. Really, really super handy. Oh, sorry about this. My mouse has just taken on a life of its own. Very bizarre. Okay, so yeah, you need to keep track of your progress. So how do you know if you're improving if you don't actually know where you started? So if you are on any social media platforms right now as an author, so I'm not talking about in your business if it has nothing to do with your authorship, I'm not talking about Facebook if you only share pictures of your kids, like that's not what I mean. It's very much around your author brand and your books. Have a look at these questions, and I can send you, like I say, the slide deck so you can refer back to them, so you don't have to write them all down now. But it's a really good idea to do this, and we call it a digital audit, basically. So the first part of the digital audit is to literally Google yourself. So you've already done that. And then the next part of your digital audit is to really get on top of those numbers. So how many followers do you have on each platform that you're using actively for your author career? How many people are you following? Are you connected with? So the difference between the followers and the following numbers. I know there's different names on different platforms, but you essentially know what that means. How many platforms are you actively using? So not that you've got an account on Threads, but you've just never used it. How many platforms would you say you're active on? And it's also a good idea to look at how long you've been on that platform. So for example, I've been on X for a long, long time, and that's where we have most of our interactions. But that makes sense because it's been a long time of building that up. Whereas Threads, not so much. It's not bad, but it's nowhere near what it's like over on X because I haven't been on it as much. So you've got to kind of give yourself a bit of grace on that as well. And then I think it's a really good idea to actually set yourself a target for followers and following numbers by the end of 2024. Why in 2024? Just because that's, you know, an obvious line in the sand. You can put whatever date you want on there. You can put it for the anniversary of your publication date, whatever you want. And then you need to add it all up. So you need to basically look at what's your total reach on social media. That means people following you. And yeah, let us know if you want to share. And having that audit will really help you keep track of those stats. And my recommendation is that you put in your diary when you're doing a bit of author work, once a month, you put in your diary that you go back over these questions, just so you're on top of it. If you see something is not going in the right direction, so up, if it's either stable or it's going down in terms of insights, people following you, that kind of thing, you need to switch it up. There's no point keeping on doing something that isn't working. So the only way in social media should be up. It should never be flat or down. If you're investing time in it. So if you're doing something that doesn't seem to be working, you need to switch it up. If something was working, so me talking to camera and doing reels seems to be getting loads of engagement, fabulous, but that probably won't last forever. So don't rely on the same old strategy time and time and time again. You're going to need to keep tweaking things, checking the data, tweak, checking the data, tweak, which is basically what marketing is. As much as I hate to admit it, because I hate numbers, but it's true. So we're gonna look at tomorrow. We're gonna look at identifying who your target reader is. As I say, it's step one, really, like the biggest thing you can do in terms of building a long-term author brand, because then you really can start mapping out a strategy around that reader. I'm always gassing on about evidence versus estimation, which is basically we need to look at data. There's no point assuming that you know who your reader is if you haven't done the research in the first place. Now, that research might be in the form of reviews, social media engagement, social stats. It could even be meeting the readers in person. So I know quite a few of you on here do that. You do meet your readers, you do go to bookshops, you do go to schools or whatever. But it is a good idea to really keep on growing that evidence, that big old pot of evidence to show who the readers are. Because like I say, there's so many authors will come to us and say, oh, my reader is definitely age 10 to 14. You know, they're usually girls. Sometimes the odd boy will come in and read it, but they're usually girls who really like dancing. And then it turns out actually it's not 10 to 14, it's more like 5 to 8. And they've completely targeted the wrong people. They shouldn't have been going into secondary schools with it. Like, it just was never going to work. And that's the evidence versus estimation. And you only get to know that information once you start doing the marketing and get the book out there. So you've got to be prepared to tweak things, change things. Don't feel like it's a failure. Everything that you do that doesn't work is a learning for changing it up and making improvements for the next time. The other thing that can be really helpful is to look at what other authors are doing. So we call them comp authors. So if there's an author in your genre who's doing pretty well, you could talk to them and ask them about who they think their readers are. But if you don't feel brave enough to talk to them, which is fine, you could just have a look at, you know, who they seem to be targeting, what sort of media they're getting, what sort of opportunities are coming up for them, what sort of reviews they're getting. And that's also a really good place to look for keywords. So if you've got an author who you think is in your genre and they've got the same readership, then you could go into their reviews on Amazon and you could be like, oh, okay, these words keep popping out. I'd like those words to keep popping out in my reviews as well. And you can kind of start working out your keywords from there. So yeah, so that's how it works. And then once you've worked out who your avatar is, your target reader, as we call it, you can then start thinking about the sorts of buying behaviors they've got, their sorts of reading behaviors, so how they consume media, how they read books, how they get recommendations for books, how they share about books. If they're excited, how do they share about it? Do they talk to their friends in the pub? Do they go to a book club? Do they share online? Are they part of an online book club as well, or instead of an in-person one? There's loads of stuff that they could be doing. And again, if your book is a very book clubby book, then you want to make sure that book clubs are part of your marketing plan, basically. So look at that, 5 minutes to go. Has anyone got any questions on that huge amounts of information I've packed into half an hour? And if you haven't, then you can come back tomorrow and ask me some questions, but feel free, you're very welcome to ask a question now. Just unmute yourself if you want to ask anything. Is everyone going to be quiet? Matthew, have you unmuted yourself?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask for something like X or Twitter. I've just started there and I have about 500 followers, which is not very good. I mean,
Bad if you just
I have friends. I have friends who have 3,000 followers, but how do you? Is there any stratagem for getting the numbers up somehow? I mean, is there any shortcut or trick?
Not really a shortcut, but there are definitely things that you can do that will help that happen faster. So, for example, you may not be following as many people as you could be, so you could follow more of the right people. You could be engaging more with the content of people that you want to follow you. You could be doing things like sort of follow Friday, like a hashtag follow Friday, or all the different author follows that they do, where you can jump on a sort of a thread basically, and everyone follows each other who's in a particular genre, for example, and then they also follow you because you're part of that thread. So there's lots of different sort of things you can do. The main thing you can do is be consistent with the amount of time you put into it and the types of content that you put out, but also look at the data. So if you're putting out bits of content and they're really not working, they're not landing, even with, as you say, a smaller group of people, and I don't think 500 is that bad, but even with 500 people, you'd be able to get quite a good handle on, is this actually the sort of content that they want, and give them the stuff that they do want. And the easiest way of finding out what they want is to just test it and or ask them, which is also quite a brave thing to do, and it's not something that many people fancy doing, because you kind of open yourself up for all sorts of ideas. But it's definitely worth looking at what resonates most, and yeah, putting the time in. It's just consistency, to be honest, Matthew.
Did you by any chance, is it possible to pin more than one post to an X account, or just one?
No, it isn't possible.
Okay.
But what you can do is, in your profile, you can have a link to Linktree, and then you can have lots of different things in that.
Okay.
If anyone on here hasn't got a Linktree account, it's definitely worth looking at, because it's a way of having one website link in your media profile or your social media profile, and then from there you can list all the stuff and you can update it. So if, for example, you had a media interview, you could put that at the top. If you're going to do an event, you can put that at the top and then delete it once it's gone. You can have links to your other social media platforms. You could have a link to buy your books. You could have linked to your website, mailing list, that kind of thing. So there's loads of different places that you could share a link to. But obviously with most social media platforms, you only get 1 to 4 link spaces. So it's definitely worth looking at that as well. Oh, sorry, go on, Matthew. Go on.
I just had one more question. Can you see me? I mean, I'm very dark. I mean, like, I can see everyone, but
yeah, I can see you.
2 windows.
Yeah, I can see you. You're not as light as, I guess, as the others, but I can see you clearly. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
you've got the light behind
I
you.
guess. Yeah, I got the windows. That's probably why.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll fix that.
No worries. Ellis, did you have a question?
I do. It's a little bit more complex. I hope it's okay to ask.
Go on.
So I basically, my debut is the first in a series that is a YA suspense.
Oh, cool.
And I also plan to put out some cozies.
Yep.
But I also have some forthcoming sweet romances, which is a pretty starkly different genre. So I decided to do my main branding as Ellis K Creates and then
Yeah.
write under Ellis K. Popa for my suspense, and then Ellis St. K for my romance stuff.
Yeah.
But as I'm actually having like a media kit professionally done,
Brilliant.
and some various branding things, I
Yes.
wasn't sure how similarly I should make. For instance, if I should have my romance stuff have a completely different style of logo, or what would your suggestion be for that? Or make them just a little bit different from each other, or what do you think?
Well, it depends on whether or not you want to have it, you want them to be almost so separate that people that are reading one genre won't know that you've written the others. Personally, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think what I would rather do is have the three sort of brand identities based on the very different genres, but making it clear that you are the same person, but you're just this. If you like these books, this is the name you look for. If you like these books, this is the name you look for. And if you like these books, this is the name you look for. But I'm all the same person. I just write three different genres. I personally wouldn't be so I'd have like a thread maybe through the logo that shows the same, or the same font or something like that, because I think ultimately, yes, you might find that YA readers aren't going to read, you know, the romance stuff, but you don't know. You can take readers with you over years, you know, so people don't tend to just write in one genre, read in one genre, you know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't limit that. I think it's a clever idea to do what you've done, and I probably would have recommended that myself, but I wouldn't pretend to not be the other people. So therefore some synergy between those brands would make sense to me.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up question. Do you think that cozy is different enough from YA/NA suspense that I should have a separate pen name for that? Or do you think it would be okay to put it under the Ellis K. Popa since it's like mystery suspense?
Yeah, to be honest, you probably could. I mean, to be honest, most YA readers who are under 21, who are kind of the intended target audience, but as we know, YA is read by loads of people now. They probably wouldn't then necessarily be into the cozy stuff. But that's not to say they wouldn't. I mean, there's like I say, people aren't rigid in their genres. I think if you can go under the mystery, crime, suspense bracket for those two, then that is different to the romance. I mean, I know a lot of people who write romance and do write a different name to everything else that they do. So you could just pull out the romance, have that as the separate brand.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any other questions, or shall we just meet tomorrow night? And if you've got any questions, you can ask then.
I have a really, really quick question, but I can't wait tomorrow if we run out of time.
No, go on,
All right.
go on, you go.
Is
If
it all
anyone
right?
needs to go, you just go, guys, and then I can stay on.
You probably don't have an answer to this, but
Oh, I love a challenge.
well, basically, when I was Googling myself, there's
Yeah.
there's a famous golfer who's got exactly the same name as me. And I'm never going to be like, other than changing my name.
To be honest with you, there's authors with the same name, so I wouldn't worry about it. It's so different. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's like if it was, I don't know, it's a bit like if it was like, I don't know, a politician and an author, you know, they're different. A golfer and an author, they're different. Yeah, okay, she could have written a book, but you know, your book's not about golf, so you're going to be all right. Like, do you know what I mean? I think there's there is that annoying thing, but also you just need to make sure, and I'm sure you've already done it, but you know, you own all of the potential domains and social media handles. You know, you've claimed all of the social media handles around your author name, so that she can't do any of that anyway, so there's going to be no confusion. And then just making it very clear in all of your outward marketing, you know, the book cover, author, you know, just little touch points like that will help make it very clear. But yeah, I wouldn't, it is annoying, but
Yeah,
like I say, I've seen a lot of authors with the same name, and that's way worse.
Yeah.
And authors in the same genre, it's like it's really frustrating.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah, I make people know that I'm not the golfer, and
Yeah,
I've never played golf.
exactly. I mean, like, there's another Helen Lewis who's a journalist, and obviously I'm not a journalist anymore, but you know, I still get invites to go and speak at like Cambridge University about the book she's written. I'm like, you got the wrong one. So yeah, it happens. Yeah. Cool. Well, I will see you all tomorrow night. There's more to do. yeah, it's only half an hour, so there's loads to pack in. And then on Wednesday as well, I'll see you and we can do some more. But I'm very happy. Anytime you've got any questions, shove them into the chat as well. And then if I see that there's lots of questions, I can make sure that I give a bit more time at the end to answer them all. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks, Ellen.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Cheers. Bye.